Well, it's not an automatic thing that if someone is experiencing attractions to the same sex and so they're not going to be married to a person of the opposite sex, that the only option that's open to them is to enter religious life or to be a priest. We have a tradition in the church, although it can still be kind of understood better and better, of a dedicated single life. If someone is pretty sure that they're not called to marriage, then an option to consider is to find a way to be involved in the life of their family, in the life of their parish or their community, while living a celibate single life. So from that side of things, ordination or religious profession is not the default answer to not getting married. We have to be careful about how we look at this, because everybody is called to live as a disciple of the Lord in the state and life in which they find themselves. And so it's not, well, either I'm married or I'm a religious, or I don't have anything to offer to anybody. Quite the contrary. Every one of us is called to make a gift of ourselves. Now, the question of a religious vocation or a vocation to the priesthood is something that has to be considered very, very carefully in light of the experience of same-sex attractions. So first of all, as I just said, it's not the only option available to someone who doesn't want to be married. And the church in recent years has given us a lot of very important and I think very clear instructions about discerning a vocation in light of same-sex attractions. Same-sex attractions don't occur in a vacuum. It's a very profound, very complex experience of the human heart and mind and soul. And so there are lots of other factors in a person's life that may come along with that experience of attraction. And the church is very clear that she wants us to take all of those things seriously when we're discerning vocations, especially to the priesthood. That's the kind of explicit instructions that we have from the church, but also in regard, I think, to vocations to religious communities of men and women. What the church says is that a person who is practicing homosexuality, when this means involved in a same-sex relationship, is not a candidate for the priesthood. And that's very clear, because priesthood is a celibate vocation, and so if we're not living chastely, then we're not appropriate. A person who is not living chastely is not going to be an appropriate candidate for starting that life until he's figured that out. Also, a person who supports the gay culture is how the document puts it. What they mean is who is an activist for changing the church's teaching, or putting political pressure for same-sex marriage and same-sex relationships in general. That person is not a suitable candidate for the seminary either, because he's going to be ordained to teach what the church teaches, and if by his actions and by his words or by where he gives his support, he's taking a position different from what the church teaches, opposed to it, then he's not the right candidate to be a priest. Then the church asks us to consider the question of what they call deeply rooted same-sex attractions. If this is forming part of the way that a person identifies and sees himself, that can be an obstacle to healthy pastoral relationships. And so a lot of care is needed when that is the case, to understand where do the attractions come from, what are they about, what is the person making of them. And so vocation directors and bishops have to really get to know a person and understand what influence attractions have in that person's life before just proceeding with applying to the seminary or to a religious community. I think we have to say also that if a person could never think of themselves admitting that this is part of their experience, that they shouldn't apply to the seminary to religious life, because without the transparency and honesty of just kind of putting it all out there for the discernment of the bishop or the community, it's not going to be possible to move forward in discernment.